What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing, back at you again. Today's topic: Errol Spence on the run again, demands 60-40 split in new attempt at ducking Bud Crawford. Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? The life before riches, huh? The life before riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing today. Okay, so new headline: Errol Spence demands 60-40 split to take the fight with Bud Crawford. Well, I can't say that I'm surprised that Errol Spence is demanding a 60-40 split, because in actuality it's just a new way, at ducking. Okay, so I mean, one thing I gotta say about Errol Spence is that besides being a great fighter, he's very creative when it comes to ducking. Okay, I mean, I've never seen a fighter. I mean, I thought that Keith Thurman was one of the most prolific duckers in the game, but I mean, Errol Spence is putting Keith Thurman to shame when it comes to ducking. Bud Crawford. I mean, man. I mean, this guy. Nothing but excuse after excuse after excuse. Now he's putting up a 60-40 split as a new way of ducking Crawford. Before he was Crawford didn't fight anybody. Before that, it was Crawford wouldn't sell. Before that, he sent his trainer Derek James out to say that his legacy doesn't depend on him fighting Crawford. I mean, now he has his fanboys, his LDBC fanboys out there, talking about 60-40, is good because Spence is the biggest star. I mean, what is this, acting? I thought it was a boxing game. Isn't it about who's the better fighter? How did it become about who's the bigger star? I mean, what is that all about? I mean, this is a joke. At the end of the day, I mean, let's get serious, for a minute here, okay? Let's look at the record. We got to go to the record, and so let's look at the record. Crawford is a 3-division champion: lightweight, super lightweight, which is junior welterweight, and welterweight. He's undisputed at junior lightweight. Junior welterweight. Okay, so you have a fighter who has actually cleaned out the division already. Okay, we're talking about a fighter who, if you were to stop fighting today, would be in the Hall of Fame. It would still go to the Hall of Fame. Do you think that if Spence stopped fighting today, he would go to the Hall of Fame? No, because he hasn't done anything yet to say he would go to the Hall of Fame. I mean, beating lightweight Mikey Garcia and having what you'd call a struggling against Sean Porter, that wouldn't put you in the Hall of Fame. Nowhere close. So the fact that Spence, could come out and say that he wants a 60-40, maybe he means 60-40 in favor of Crawford, because that's the way it should be. Okay, I mean, if you really want to get real about it, I mean, the 60-40 should be 60 for Crawford and 40 for Spence, because if you look at their record, it's not even close. Okay, what has Errol Spence achieved at welterweight? Have you ever fought in another division? No. And you're gonna look at a 3-division champion, and let's get clear about these 3 different divisions. He jumped from lightweight to welterweight, to junior welterweight to fight Brady Prescott, who was a killer at the time. Okay, at 140 pounds, he moved up to fight Brady Prescott in 3 days' notice. in his first 10-round fight. Think about that for a minute, okay? Crawford took, with a 3 days notice, he moved up to fight Brady Prescott in his first 10-round fight, okay? A killer like Brady Prescott, who was supposed to fight another champion, who was supposed to fight for the title actually, but the guy that had the title at the time, something happened to him, and so he couldn't fight. And they asked Crawford if he wanted to take the fight. He said, "Yeah, I'll take it." 3 days notice, moved up 140 pounds and took that fight. Okay, so I mean, now, typically when someone move up to a different weight division, they usually take a trial fight or 2 or 3 to get themselves acclimated to the weight. But he just jumped up to 140 pounds and took the fight. And let's not forget that once he moved up to 140 pounds, he cleaned out the entire division, undisputed. Then after that, he moved up to welterweight and knocked out the champion at welterweight. No preliminary fights, no fight to get acclimated to the weight. He just moved up to the championship level, took the title. Okay, so I mean, and then we could compare that against what Spence has done. I mean, Spence fought lightweight Mikey Garcia, couldn't stop him. Then he went, into a fight against Crawford. Against Sean Porter. Struggled with Sean Porter. I mean, there's many who would say that Sean Porter won that fight. So maybe there's something wrong with me, because I just don't see how you could compare Terrence Crawford's record with Errol Spence's record. I mean, it's not even close. And I hear people out there talking about Crawford hasn't fought anybody here, this, that, and the other. And, our Errol Spence is the biggest star, this, that, and the other. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, these guys are trying to flip the script, okay? And, it's ridiculous at this point, okay? So now, after the book fight, we see that, I guess Errol Spence is like, whoa, I mean, hey, I got to figure another way to try and duck this fight. Maybe if I demand a 60-40 split, Bud won't take the fight. And so we see that this is just another attempt by Errol Spence to duck Terrence Crawford by any means necessary. Okay, it doesn't matter what he does. He's going to do anything and everything to avoid fighting Terrence Crawford. And this is just another example of that. I mean, if people can't see see the fact now, I mean, I don't know when they're going to see it. Okay, this guy has been ducking Crawford for 2 years continuously. First he said when Crawford ran up on him, he said, "Oh, why didn't I take the easy fight against Sean Porter?" And and we saw what happened with that fight. Okay, that was the toughest fight of his life. So I mean, it looks like Errol Spence really don't want this fight at all. I mean, what other conclusion can we come to? Okay, because to say that you're the biggest star, as if this was an acting gig or something like that. This is about fighting. It's not about acting. Okay. So all this talk about being the biggest star, I don't know where that's coming from. I've heard that from some other boxers, well, not boxers, but guys in the business talking about so-and-so fighter is the biggest star, this, that, and the other. I mean, let's get real, people. If we're going to talk about stars in the boxing, how can the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter, the lineal champion, 3 division, undisputed guy not be the biggest star than a guy who fought a lightweight and went the distance with a lightweight, fought Sean Porter, okay, went the distance with Sean Porter and barely won the fight against Sean Porter, while the other fighter like Terrence Crawford is stopping everybody he fights. Okay, no judges involved, he's stopping everyone. So I mean, we see that this is ridiculous. But at this point, this is ridiculous, and I think that Errol Spence is almost making himself irrelevant at this point. With his prima donna demands. I mean, if you don't want to fight Terrence Crawford, just say you don't want to take the fight because you don't think he can win. or just say make up some other reason. I mean, but don't try to say, oh, you want a 60-40 because you're the A side. You can't be the A side when you don't have a record that could match Terrence Crawford record. You haven't done anything at welterweight yet, to say that, oh, you're the biggest star. I mean, just because you got all these fanboys out there, trying to protect you, okay, and out there, saying that, oh, Errol Spence is this and Errol Spence is that. I mean, I don't know what they're basing it on, because it can't be his record, okay. I mean, he fought. You talk about, people talk about, oh, Crawford is fighting Errol Spence leftover. Well, I mean, the guy that he beat, Kell Brook, shout out to Kell Brook. The guy that he beat, Kell Brook, beat Sean Porter, while Sean Porter was undefeated. So Errol Spence fought Kell Brook's leftover. Okay, that's what it's all about. And he fought Sean Porter, after Sean Porter lost to Keith Thurman and Kell Brook. Okay, so so when he fought Sean Porter, when Errol Spence fought Sean Porter, he had 2 losses on his record already. When Kell Brook fought Sean Porter, he was undefeated. Okay, he fought the best Sean Porter. So I mean, people, we got to get real about this thing. I mean, and really see for what it is. So it looks like running man Errol Spence, is really I mean, I don't know what to tell you about this. I mean, he's not making any sense whatsoever. Okay, so we can see. I mean, we got. This is why I keep saying, we can't be afford to be politically correct in this situation, because it looks like we're gonna have to drag Errol Spence into the ring against Crawford. It's not the fight. Well, I keep saying this. Okay, now you can go back and look at all my videos. Okay, it's the same thing over and over. I'm telling people all the time, Errol Spence is ducking Terrence Crawford, and this is just another example of that. It's a blatant example, of ducking. Okay, and so Errol Spence, ironically, is even outdoing Keith Thurman when it comes to ducking. Okay, so I mean, it is what it is, people. I mean, I think a lot of people are starting to realize the fact now. Okay, because as you can see, a lot of people after the Kell Brook fight with Terrence Crawford is saying, oh, they want to see. Everybody's out there saying now they want to see the fight with Spence and Crawford. They want to see the fight with Spence and Crawford. Even some of Errol Spence fans are demanding now to see the fight, with Crawford. Even some of the, the LDBC haters and fanboys are out there saying now, yeah, they want to see the fight with Errol Spence. This fight got to happen next. The fight got to happen next. Okay, I mean, you have some of them out there still talking about, oh, Sean Porter couldn't upset, I hear one of these LDBC haters talk about, oh, Sean Porter could upset the whole thing, the whole thing with the Spence fight if he was to take a fight with Crawford. But I mean, I don't know about that. I think that, Sean Porter would be wise to stay away from Crawford, because I think Crawford will stop him. Okay, I mean, it's Sean Porter who's out there saying that, that Crawford has more tools, too many tools for Errol Spence, and that, Sean Porter, Bud Crawford would beat Errol Spence. This is what Sean Porter is saying. Now, you just lost to Errol Spence, Sean Porter. So if you think that Bud Crawford would beat Errol Spence, what do you think he would do to you? I mean, now we can say, I respect Sean Porter. So, we can say that style make fights. So just because, Crawford can beat Errol Spence, this is, what I would think. Just because he can beat Errol Spence doesn't mean he necessarily could beat Porter. But I think he could beat both Porter and Errol Spence. Okay, so that's how I see that. But I think that at the end of the day, Sean Porter is a fighter, and so even though he might not think he'll win the fight, he probably still take the fight anyway. Plus, it's going to be a big money fight if he fights Crawford. Okay, but I don't want to see that fight right now. I want to see the Errol Spence fight first. If they're going to fight, they can fight after Errol Spence. Okay, I want to see the Errol Spence fight first. That's the biggest fight in boxing. Okay, Sean Porter doesn't have a title. Okay, so I don't even see what the point of Crawford fighting. Why should Crawford fight Sean Porter? He doesn't have a title. Okay, I mean, what happened to strap season? I mean, that's what Errol Spence was always talking about. You don't hear him talking about that anymore. Strap season disappeared from his mind. All of a sudden now he wants to fight everybody else that doesn't have a title. When Crawford is sitting over there with a title and he's claiming that Crawford is not fighting anybody. So if Crawford is not fighting anybody, then go over there and take the title from Crawford. Since you're supposed to be the boogeyman, go over there and take the title from Crawford. But how is it that you're the boogeyman and Crawford is calling you out and you've been ducking him for 2 years, but you're the boogeyman? I didn't know that the boogeyman was, boogeymen duck fighters. I mean, I thought fighters duck boogeymen, okay? But no, the whole thing is flipped upside down. Spence is claiming to be the boogeyman, but yet still Crawford has been calling him out for 2 years and he's been ducking Crawford. So, I mean, this whole thing is getting ridiculous now, but it looks like, Errol Spence is getting backed into a corner. So now he comes up with a new, way to try and duck Crawford. He wants 60-40 split now. He never mentioned that before, but this is some new demand now when people are putting the pressure on him, to fight Crawford. He's coming up with a new demand to put in the way of the fight. So, people, we see it for what it is. And, I don't think it can be any doubt, even with the most die-hard Spence fan, that Errol Spence is ducking Crawford. It is what it is, people. You can't, it can't be denied anymore. Okay? I mean, this is what is going on. I mean, it's a desperate attempt, to duck Crawford, but I don't think it's gonna work because people, if we already know how fans, are, fans are fickle, okay, and they're with you one day, they're against you the next day, okay. So I think we're turning that corner. People are now demanding this fight, okay, and Errol Spence, is gonna have to fight Crawford. I would think because people are demanding, and it looks like the fans are literally, I've said this in my videos before, but it looks like it's really happening. The fans are actually literally having to drag Spence inch by inch into the ring with Crawford because he's not going to go in there voluntarily. Okay, we can see that now after 2 years, and then especially after that book fight, we're gonna have to drag him in the ring, and so let the dragon begin, as I've said before. Okay, and it looked like the dragon has begun, and so Spence is desperately trying to stop himself from getting dragged into the ring. So now he comes up with this 60-40 split out of nowhere. Okay, that has no merit whatsoever because your record. I mean, Crawford is the one that's the pound for pound #1 fighter, not Errol Spence. So how is it that the pound for pound #1 fighter is going to get a 40, get a 60-40 split in Errol Spence's favor? It doesn't make any sense. Okay, how can you be the A side when you're not the pound for pound fighter and you only fought 2 fighters in your whole career that we can say, is elite? I'd say, I don't know, lightweight Mikey Garcia. I mean, come on, people. It's getting ridiculous by now, okay? At the end of the day, this is why, it looks like, Crawford is kind of fed up with Errol Spence and his ducking, because it's getting ridiculous, okay? And, that's why he's demanding a fight with Manny Pacquiao as opposed to demanding a fight with Errol Spence, okay? Because I from what I've heard, I just heard that Manny Pacquiao is willing to fight Crawford anytime, any place. I mean, that's what I saw somewhere. He says, "Oh, I'm willing to fight Crawford anytime, any place." So even old man Pacquiao, is willing to fight Crawford while Errol Spence continues to make excuses. It's not a good look for Errol Spence at all. Okay. Errol Spence is a good fighter. I'm not going to take anything away from Errol Spence. He's a good fighter. But the fact of the matter is, his record, he doesn't have the record to go out there and demand 60-40 split with Terrence Crawford. It's just not there. I'm sorry. He has no leg to stand on. Okay, all this talk about him being the star is just a joke. Like I said, if you compare the record, it's not even close. Again, I'm going to tell you that Terrence Crawford could stop fighting today and still be in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because he cleaned out the 140-pound division. he's a 3 division world champion, okay, and so he has the record, to be in the Hall of Fame right now. If Errol Spence was to quit boxing today, he could never be in the Hall of Fame with his record that he has. Because he doesn't have a record yet. Okay, so a fight against lightweight Mikey Garcia and a struggling win against Sean Porter is not going to put you in the Hall of Fame. That's not a record where you're going to demand a 60-40 split. Okay, because we saw that Book fought Sean Porter and beat Sean Porter. He beat the best Sean Porter. He beat an undefeated Sean Porter. Okay. Errol Spence fought Sean Porter after Sean Porter already had 2 losses on his record. Okay. And he struggled. Okay. So, and then even after that fight, we saw Sean Porter struggle with, before that fight, Sean Porter struggled with Ugas. Okay. After the fight with Spence, Sean Porter struggled with Formelo. Okay. So why did Spence have such a tough fight with Sean Porter? If he's that good, if Spence is that good, how is it that the fight with Sean Porter was so tough? When even Keith Thurman, even sometime Keith Thurman had an easier fight against Sean Porter than Errol Spence did. So, something is just not kosher there, people. I'm sorry to say, Errol Spence, need to come back down to earth and realize, that it's not all about him, okay, and that he hasn't really done anything in the game to demand a 60-40 split, and people see it for what it is, okay. He can think that he's pulling the wool over anybody's eyes, but he's not. He's just a shameless attempt at ducking Terrence Crawford because, again, the people are now demanding the fight, so now he's putting up more roadblocks, for this fight, and people are seeing it for what it is, and so I don't think that it's going to work personally, okay, and he's going to have to either go get in that ring and fight Terrence Crawford, or just get a pin that says duck and pin it to his jacket, because he's going to be known as the guy that ducked Terrence Crawford, and that's what it's going to be. There's no other way that people are going to see it other than that, and a lot of people are seeing it now. I see a lot of people waking up to the fact that he's ducking Crawford, and especially after the Kell Brook fight. Okay, so it is what it is. Errol Spence, I don't know. It's a sad state of affairs. I'm kind of sad to see that it has gotten to this point with Errol Spence. In terms of the duck season, situation. I would have never expected, for this type of thing, to be associated with Errol Spence. Okay, him ducking. This blatant attempt at ducking. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It is. It is what it is. It's an embarrassing situation. Okay, and it doesn't look good for Errol Spence at all. So but again, people. Even though I'm gonna say I've said what I've said. In a way I kind of understand, because after that devastating win by Crawford against Book, a guy that Errol Spence struggled with, yeah, I can understand. Why would you want to go in the ring with against a beast like Crawford? So maybe the 60-40 split is just retirement insurance. Maybe that extra 20% is going to go towards retirement, because if you were to fight Crawford, I think Crawford would probably retire him. Porter almost did it, because quiet as kept, that fight against Porter was a brutal fight for Errol Spence. He got really beat up in the fight. Now people are talking about the crash. I wouldn't really worry about the crash so much. I think people should go back and revisit that fight with Sean Porter and see how much punishment Errol Spence took. Even without the crash, I was kind of wondering if he'd ever be the same after that fight. I think that fight took a lot out of him. Okay, and so maybe he doesn't want to go in again another tough fight against a beast like Terrence Crawford, because if Porter, if Porter did that to him, imagine what Crawford would do. I mean, I think I think he would stop Errol Spence actually. Okay, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Errol Spence. He's a good fighter, but I just don't. Just like Sean Porter says, I just think that Crawford have more tools in the toolbox. Okay, and that he's a more versatile fighter than Errol Spence. As a matter of fact, probably the most versatile fighter. Not probably, he is the most versatile fighter at welterweight. Okay, and so I can see Crawford. If he was to get the chance, I could see Crawford cleaning out the 147-pound division. I can see that. Okay, and then moving up to junior middleweight and cleaning out that division as well. Because if he move up to junior middleweight, you don't have to make two fights, one against Jamel Charlo and against the WBO champion. And the WBO champion would have to fight him because he's a WBO champion himself. So all he would need to clean out the junior middleweight and the welterweight division is 4 fights. Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence, Jamel Charlo, and Teixeira. Okay, that's it. 4 fights, and he'll be undisputed in 3 different weight divisions. So I wish I could say that I'm surprised that Errol Spence is now asking for a 60-40 split, but I mean it doesn't surprise me. I think that he doesn't really want this fight with Crawford, and this whole talk about 60-40 is just more proof of that fact. So it is what it is, people. The fear is real. Errol Spence doesn't want any smoke. He forgot about strap season. He don't even say that anymore. You don't hear him say that anymore, because if he was to say that, then people would say, "What about this strap that Terrence Crawford have?" So he doesn't even mention strap season anymore. Okay, man down, no more. Okay, all of that is out the window now. Okay, he's basically doing everything in his power to avoid Terrence Crawford, and talking about fighting Porter next, and Porter is calling out Crawford now. And let's talk about that call out. I mean, Porter calling out Crawford, I don't think is a wise move. I think that just like he's saying that Crawford has more tools in the toolbox, in a fight against Errol Spence. It's the same thing with him with Porter and Crawford. I mean, it would be the same thing. But the only difference, I think, is that I do believe, though, that the fight with Crawford and Porter would probably be more competitive than a fight with Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, because the style make fights, okay, and I just think that Errol Spence fight style would play to Terrence Crawford, and because he's a come forward type of guy, and Crawford would probably do him the same way he did Book, okay, take him out, okay, I've seen that Porter it can be versatile when he wants to be. So is Errol Spence actually, but I just think that his whole persona and the way he fights is more would be advantageous for Crawford. Okay, if he decide to fight the way he usually fight, come forward against Crawford, I don't think that would work in his favor. So I'm thinking that a fight with Porter would probably be more entertaining in the sense that Porter would probably last a little bit longer than Errol Spence was, just because of the style. Okay, different style, so style make fights. And so Porter, I mean, I'm not sure why he wants to fight Crawford, uh, you know, but then again, Porter is a fighter. Okay, he's a warrior, and so he probably want to test himself against Crawford, even though he think he might not, he might not win. That's not going to stop him from testing the waters. And unlike Spence, he's willing to go out there and lay it on the line. We see that Spence, is not willing to do that. Okay, he doesn't want any part of Crawford, and I think he's really worried about Crawford stopping him, and that would be the end of the line, in terms of him being the so-called star at 147 pounds. Okay, we all see who the real star at 147 pounds is, and it's Terrence Crawford. Okay, uh, at this point, we have to call Errol Spence a pretender, okay? Because again, his record does not reflect reality, in what he's claiming his status is at 147 pounds. I mean, again, I'm going to point out to people that don't really understand. Uh, Errol Spence has fought Mikey Garcia and Sean Porter. What the difference with both guys struggle with Porter, okay? Couldn't knock out Mikey Garcia. And on the contrary, Crawford has stopped every fighter he has fought at welterweight, as well as most of the fighters he fought at 140 pounds. Okay, and so it's no contest, people. Okay, the real boogeyman is Terrence Crawford, and I think everybody realizes it now, especially after the book fight. Okay, and so it is what it is. Errol Spence, couldn't say what he want to say. He can, continue to make excuses, continue to duck. But again, if he doesn't get in there with Crawford sooner, I think he's gonna lose a lot of his fans to Crawford. I think a lot of his fans right now are seeing the light. Okay, they realize what's going on after that fight with Book and Crawford, and they see that the real boogeyman at 147 pounds, is Terrence Crawford, and that's what it is. Okay, Errol Spence is gonna have to prove himself. Okay, and this talk about 60-40 split is just again another blatant attempt by Errol Spence at ducking Terrence Crawford. It is what it is, people. We can't deny it any longer. So I think I'm going to leave it there. There's not much else to say about that. Okay, except for the fact that a fight with Porter would be great, but I want to see that fight after Errol Spence fight. And it looks like, with the latest news that, Errol Spence has came out with about this 60-40 split, we're going to have to really drag him in there, against Crawford, because he's not going to go in there willingly, okay? It's not going to happen, people. And we're seeing it live in real time. It is what it is. So this is TBE Boxing. That's all I have for right now. I'm out.